Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Tuesday, July the 3rd, 2018. And I'm back again with my good friends, BZ Reader and Lisa Flamino Rush. And this time we're going to talk about hiding. We're going to talk about hiding. And, well, and kind of really playing small goes along with hiding. Mm-hmm. I know, for myself, and I'm going to put myself out there. It's not like I hide, okay? Because I'm pretty out there. I mean, pretty much bull in the china shop. However, there is still hiding going on, and I'm aware of that. Yeah. So, somebody would say, "Oh, wait a minute, Sheila, you're just so outgoing, and you just tell everything you know." That's my grandma's words. But there is still a method of hiding that I didn't really quite grasp until, the last month or two, along with playing small, which, I'm beginning not, to get in the habit of not doing that. Mm-hmm. That is kind of a form of hiding too. Mm-hmm. There's
not kinda.
Okay, I was being kind to myself, but no, you're right. It's not kinda. It is. It is a method of hiding, and I am aware of that. And it was not that long ago, because I've never thought of myself as someone who was hiding anything. My light, my feelings, anything, right? Because I've always thought of myself as somebody that just like I said, my grandmother always said, you tell everything you know, and you just, so I never thought of myself as hiding. Okay. I never, but I don't know, I guess it's been about a month ago when I really had a big realization that I have been. And I still do to some degree. And part of it is I've noticed in just last video, my languaging. And some of that in this moment of now, because it just came in, has been, yes, programming and conditioning. Some of the, okay, Lisa, you have said about me that I have really big energy, and I kind of knew that, but I also, so then, as a kid, and this is not blame, and I'm not a victim, and I want to make that very clear, but it's a noticing of how that programming and conditioning got here for me. I was all out there. I have always been all out there, but at somewhere along the way, it was ingrained, whatever, however you want to put it, little pictures should be seen and not heard. You can't show your intelligence like that. People won't like you. These kinds of things. No, I'm serious. I got that. I did.
No, well, I'm just laughing at what you said and all the old tapes playing in my head, and seeing the interesting humor in them.
Yeah, right.
I mean, keep them though. They're probably not clean enough for television.
Well, when we all have these things, we all have these things that, that play in our heads, and for me, and it comes out in my languaging. I noticed, just like from the last one, even though I'm 24/7 over here working on that kind of stuff, it's still there. Now, some of it is getting easier to catch right away. Like Lisa sneezed earlier today, and I went, "Happy Rainbow." Well, actually, you said it first, but still. Because I caught myself immediately. I was like, damn. I didn't get it all the way out, but, you know, because of they're just such
a groove, a deep groove.
Right.
It's easy to fall in if you're not conscious. Yeah.
And shifting it changes everything.
Yes.
Because it becomes, you know, an expansive flow as opposed to an unconscious rut. Now just think of how the descriptions of both of those, they just using linear words feel completely different.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know, that's part of the thing about the stop hiding is the feeling. We've forgotten how to feel. We're not used to actually feeling all those full range of emotions that are our guidance system for navigating things. And so we stick in the rut, and the rut has prescribed allowable, approachable, acceptable, you know, feelings to have, and anything over that is don't get too big, don't get too, you know, it's too bright, too happy, too effervescent, too whatever it is. And I remember, God, it was years ago. It's probably, wow, that long ago, huh? I was thinking about before I got divorced, so that was a long time ago. How time flies. And I was talking to a couple of friends, and they said, well, one of the reasons that they got a sense of some remarks that my family had given is because, you know, you scare the shit out of them because you're not afraid to feel or to go into difficult, what would be for you a difficult situation, because you want to move through and come out into the other part of it in the expansive nature, rather than just kind of staying, well, I know this hurts and I know this is uncomfortable, but at least I know what it is and I can stay in the small, and if I don't peek my head above the wall kind of a thing. And the ironic, you know, from a linear standpoint to that right this moment of not hiding anymore is we're going through a big, you know, metaphoric galactic-sized meteorite field. So we can choose it and get some, you know, jet propulsion sneakers to kind of skirt around things and have a little bit of a, you know, piece here and there, or just, you know, smashing into things. And the beauty of it, as we choose to feel, as we choose to connect, as we choose to stop hiding and really come out, we shift everything for us. So we actually then have these, using the asteroid belt metaphor, we have these super cool shoulder pads that when we touch something, it just deflects it or it dematerializes it, because now we're shifting and changing. We're owning our abilities. We're owning the enormity and the beautiful brightness of who we are. And so that shifts everything. But it also shifts everything for the all. And each one of us are path pavers in doing that. And if we're paving the path of hitting the asteroids, that's not so helpful, definitely for ourselves. And it's kind of, can't remember the right word for it. It's, you know, it's just lost in the Flopson and Jepson for path paving for all. When we're actually path paving around those or using our cool new paths to dematerialize them, we're shifting everything. So you can then, a simple way to look at it is, in the stopping of hiding, we're shining a light and letting our hearts go, and we're in essence dematerializing the things that being small and what we complained about. Of course, in saying that, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's part of the problem. We're so used to identifying ourselves with those things, that feeling and dematerializing those problems because we realized that they were illusory to begin with. Now maybe we're adrift in a loss of that false identity.
That's a very real thing, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you hear about, I mean, the thing that brought to my mind is when someone has an identity that they have attached themselves to such an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm raising my hand here because for quite some time, it's almost as though I became my illnesses.
Mm.
You know, when I was so terribly ill, that was sort of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
Until I decided I didn't want that identity anymore. And that wasn't quite, you know, just at that moment, I was not as where I am now to where I could see that, oh, well, I could just throw the yoke off of that and no big, right? Well, I wasn't quite there yet at that point. But I've seen it in myself and I've seen it in others, and you know, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an illness. It could be the job that, you know, gives you the status or whatever kind of thing that, you know, that we attach that to in a way of thinking. So it becomes our identity. And yeah. When I saw something that let me know for a fact that I was still hiding, even though I, you know, because I'm so out there and all that, didn't realize that I was, I actually got scared at first because, okay, like I said, it has been said of me that I have huge energy and that and so then I started thinking, oh crap, wow, if I'm already got huge energy, what, you know, and so it just scared me a little bit at first. I'm not going to sugarcoat that crap, you know, but I'm done with that now.
Wonderful.
I mean, I'm not going to stand here and say I've stepped into it and I'm confidently advancing forward. As I just know that's the direction I want to go. That's where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I never felt safe to reveal who I am because it threatened people. It angered people. It felt dangerous to me to be myself.
We talked about spiritual whack-a-mole with you, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. And so I didn't want to reveal my hand to you if I could. And I got so practiced. I told you this, Sheila, when I first got here, I folded up my wings so tiny and just stuffed them all inside so that they would be protected. And I think a part of me thought I was protecting others. And I think the most important thing for me that I've been realizing in this last little while is that it is safe and it is important for me to show my wings. So that's a new perspective for me because it's all been about protecting myself. And that was valid because I had to get through some things and it was even helpful for moments. But as with a lot of things in my life, things can sometimes be helpful for a moment or a stage, and then they begin to be a hindrance if they're not. I was telling Sheila, like, you know, after you're running marathons, it would be foolish to crawl around when you're running your errands or, you know, and stay on all fours. Well, that's going backwards. So once you learn how to fly, you must fly. So I'm definitely unfurling the wings. They're drying out. And as soon as the wind hits just right, I will be airborne forevermore. And I can feel the sun on them right now. So that feels delicious.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And you're the one who decides when they're dry.
Yes.
And the degree to when you choose when they're dry is the degree on the energetic frequency scale of are you hiding or not? You know, sliding
Sure.
from hiding up to, you know. And that's the other thing. That's what you described is so much of what it's part of that. All the programming is that, you know, it's not safe to go out there and be who you are. And from a linear polarity level, oh, I got that. But that's also part of the illusion. That's also part of the not wanting to feel through it. Because when you stand in the truth of who you are, there's no stance of combativeness. There's no stance of fear. There's no stance of needing to protect. Mm-hmm. Because you simply are all that flow, and it is not affected by that. It's the lower frequency of the ego mind that's the one that needs to protect itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the whole being able to see that truly all perspectives are correct. I mean, that's again, that's another one of those things that sounds counterintuitive, if you will. Well, how can this be right and this be right? They're two completely different things. How can they both be the truth? Well, it depends on how you're looking at it. And that's, you know, I mean, I know we did an entire conversation about that, but it applies here too, for me anyway.
Absolutely.
So, wow, there was something else that came in for me while you guys were talking, and it just went right out. So apparently it's not supposed to be spoken at
We'll
this
see
moment.
if this will pull it back in. If you frame it, part of what we're doing is in every energetic envelope, which is, you know, you create them with yourself, you create them with all sorts of things. When you're reading something or you're watching something, that's an envelope itself that you create. So however you want to phrase it, that's just one way to phrase it. But when you're doing that, what you're doing is you're raising the energetic vibration, the level of consciousness, the expansiveness of the consciousness in that moment. And they're like these amazing, I don't know why this is coming, but they're these brightly colored, effervescent, almost balls of Velcro, brightly colored. And as you raise one, it sticks to another, and it keeps multiplying the frequency. And like if you look very closely at the Velcro, it has the little hairs, the little receptors. It's drawing more of that energy frequency that matches to it. And so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And just like some that doesn't stick, you know, when you turn it the other way, that of the lower frequency just doesn't connect anymore. So you now have, that's the predominant one, which begets more and more and more and more. And what was the illusion just simply falls away. It's not able to be in that space. And the space I'm talking about is a space of all things, not just in this room or video or town or country or whatever it is. It's the entire planet and all of it. So that's pretty cool incentive, right?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, yeah. Well, yeah, because we're
not hiding.
No, that's right. Because Yeah, that building on itself exponentially.
Right.
And that's what you described there for me anyway. Yeah.
And one of our excuses or incentives for the being small, Lisa, you were talking about, the protecting and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yet when we're in that space, we kind of think, but I want that. I want that feeling of freedom, or I want that feeling of, unlimitedness, or that freedom of abundance, or whatever it is, right? Well, this is the recipe to get there really fast in a way that's sustainable and expandable and amplifiable. Right?
Well, I wrote it down too because it just came back. Because something when we were talking about the whole, the spiritual whack-a-mole, remember how Lisa and I, that was something that we kind of were talking about when because really Lisa used to live in DC, so she used to say that she was in a foxhole, and so what she describes here is very real that she was doing there. And I'm wondering, Lisa, so this is actually really more of a question, but it's something that I see on not just in the spiritual realm, but, in a lot of other areas too. There, we've all read lots of stuff about the elite and all of that, right? And what's been done to us, that sort of thing. But there seems to be an awful lot of grandiosity about this, that, and the other that I'm beginning to suspect is BS from jump. Anyway, it's like, let's scare the shit out of everybody and let them police themselves. Because
that's the only way.
Well, yeah, because there's like, I cannot tell you how many folks I know, and I used to be one, by the way, so I'm not pointing fingers or anything, that would put something over their camera, because they don't want to be spied on. And I start, I was there too. I was there too for a time. And then I started thinking about this. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You know what? I mean, what are they going to see, first of all? Number one, and who gives a crap? And are they really? I mean, come on, let's think about it. I just started feeling that a lot of that was, again, one of those kinds of things that the ubiquitous they, amplified on purpose.
Well, it's both.
Yes. Well,
on the one hand, they amplified on purpose so that they can feed off the energy of doing that, and on the other hand, they actually are doing that. That's one of the and the beauty of that. Just programming it. The beauty of that's what's bringing them down.
No, exactly.
Because they taped everything all the time, everywhere, every phone call, and because cell phones and this and that and the other, and got so ubiquitous. All of their meetings, all of their things, all of their, what they call, their grandiose, charming entertainment activities are all chapter and verse, caught on every form of device. So you got audio, you got visual, you got details of everything.
Right. Well, and then for the most expansive level, which is where I am now, being part of all that is, I think that, at some level, everything is known anyway.
Absolutely.
So,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah. There is no hiding. So
that's right. There really is no hiding. We're doing it to ourselves, and so yeah.
Yeah. So open the heart and go with it. That's
Yes, and show your magnificence. And believe you me, there's lots and lots and lots. We are, every single one of us, magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. I've never, ever used so much colorful, poetic language in my life since I've been involved with the two of you, because I have to say that because it's just, because you use the word sublime a lot. And I love that because this is all so sublime.
And it doesn't even do it justice. The word.
No, it doesn't. Did I mention? I'm excited. In this video, have I mentioned that? And I guess it's building on itself because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's cool.
I know. No, listen, I am in full agreement with that.
We're going to be flying around the park the next couple of days.
I'm so looking forward to all. This is just so deliciously fun. I cannot stand it.
Okay, so let's play of not hiding anymore and excited and flying around the park. Right? And think back to some of the other conversations we've had about connections and just being in an open heart and making a connection in that space together is a big connection. You don't have to say, hey, what about those, hearings on Capitol Hill or whatever else it is. So when you're thinking about that and you're playing with that, have you been playing with the ways that you would, not hide anymore and do that as well at the park that you're flying around the next couple of days?
I did for the first time yesterday. For the first time, we explored some of the common areas that aren't trees in the park because I enjoy the company of trees. But the park is full of humanity that I've not really wanted to turn and look at. And so I said to my husband, who, since we got to the park, has wanted to play with everyone. And I know I've been a huge drag. Like I've been raining on his picnic for a long time. So I said, let's go check out the lodge and the swimming pool. And he was like, and I was like, no, we cannot swim. No, I told him, you can swim. I did not have a bathing suit. So I said, I cannot join you, but I will not stop you from swimming. And he said, no, we'll get you a suit and then we're going to go swimming. And we saw a game. Well, first of all, when we walked through the door, there was a card game. And then I saw on the bulletin board, it had been advertised. So people had put together something. It sounds like it was from the campers. It wasn't from the campground. And somebody put a little paper up there, and there was quite a gathering of card playing when we walked in, and then there was the fellers at the pool table, and it had a very lovely vibe, and we kind of scoped out that room, and then we went out to the pool, and there was a volleyball game going on, and my husband said, I can't wait to play volleyball. He's so excited. So I have been preparing myself for just those kind of conversations. And I found a little anxiety rising. So I just asked my greater being to please provide what needs to come through me, that I am going to focus on being available to the folks. I'm going to be around more and interacting with folks, and that I will do so only with an open heart, so that my greater being can come through and speak to all the hearts, and my greater being knows exactly what to say. And so that made me feel delightful, because I can fall into my heart and channel very easily. So that made me feel like, oh, this is my comfort zone. All I have to do is get in the pool. So we're going to the pool.
Very cool. And what you just said is an example of whose comfort zone are you discussing, right? Is it the hiding, lower your mind comfort zone, or is it the true Lisa's?
Right. Yes. And that was an artificial comfort zone, the safety and hiding, because, well, really, if you're not safe to be yourself, then what kind of a safety zone is that? So, yeah, the open heart is really who I am, and I feel the best when I'm in that place, but I haven't always felt comfortable being there, and I didn't allow myself. And the little me was too afraid of that from having suffered some wounds. And, you know, it had a good argument, but the argument's old and we just aren't there anymore. You know, I'm not 5, I'm not 12, I'm not being traumatized by unconscious adults. I don't have to be. I can be surrounded by unconscious adults and not be traumatized because I've learned how to do that now. So really, I guess I'm embracing my wounded inner child and just allowing her to play and have fun, and really know that everywhere is a safety zone because everywhere is me.
Right.
And
Well, if it's in love, it's safe, right? If it's it's an open-hearted love, it's safe.
Yes.
And you're in a different part of the trajectory, right? You've gone out, you gathered all those things. Those actually were incredibly valuable and expanding ways to connect with different parts of what may be labeled from duality, contrast. And now you're a transmitter, and you know, you don't have to do things that necessarily that your I'll say it, your false construct of a comfort zone is uncomfortable with, because instead you're just going to be who you are. And you know, you may see a lot of sunglasses go on because of the light that you're shining, but you just, you know, go with it.
That's okay. Yeah.
Well, really what I'm feeling in this moment of now, that, you know, as I was listening to what you were saying there, Lisa, and sort of, yes, comparing to myself, as we do, as that is something we do. Not that one's right or wrong, it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
But I did notice something in both your hiding and mine that has served as an effective, that I personally allowed, and that I'm sure you did too. Mm-hmm. And that is, you know, the reactions or responses to sharing our truths, and for both of us in particular, more with the, you know, what the hell is going on here kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize then when I was doing that myself with folks, because again, I think we've discussed this once before, you know, when you start finding out things and you start realizing things, you want so much for the rest of humanity to get on board. This is crazy. Come on, get on board. Let's get
you want to sell it.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's exactly what it must come off at, because, you know, that's when the beat downs begin. Or,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
The just out and out stay the hell away from you, because, you know.
Yeah. And that's part, it's a convoluted way, but that's part of the being small. When you're really expansive and fully in the heart, there is nothing and no need to sell anything.
No.
Simply stand as if you were, you know, this radiant beacon that, you know, that has, you know, think of a flower that has beautiful petals, and the shimmer and sheen of the petals is, you know, makes you want to look a little closer and come into connection with it. The fragrance, all those kinds of things. The flower simply is being in its truth.
Yeah.
You know,
radiating.
Right. So, and then transmitting that out. And so butterflies come and all these kinds of things. It's the same for us when we go for it. It's kind of that twist that you talked about before, Sheila, that the false construct puts on it. And again, you know, I'm certain in the dualistic handbook, you know, get them out there to get them to sell this stuff. You know, hey, what about that? Oh, you got to hear about that, and pound it instead of, wow, did you notice how the quality of light or the sun looks different? You know, you're actually selling, metaphorically speaking, the noticing, but it's purely, and it's like if you've ever gone to a farmer's market, or maybe there's like a big restaurant event where there's all different restaurants have booths and stuff, and you've tasted stuff, and it lingers on the tongue, and then you start making, you know, maybe cooking in your head about it, or different things, or bring back memories of fun times and picnics and so on and so forth. That's actually what you're doing. And simply just being there, you're actually staying with those people, you know, throughout their connection.
Right.
And that's not hiding. But you don't have to actually, I think a lot of times people think, okay, if I'm not hiding anymore, I've got to stop hiding. I've got to step up. Okay, I got to go find a podium and start selling stuff. Oh my God, I don't know. And, you know, if you're moved to do that, great. But that isn't,
not
metaphorically or literally speaking, that really isn't what it's.
Oh, yay.
Well, I mean, you know,
I'm relieved. No.
Yeah, and I brought that up.
Podium for me.
Yeah, I brought that up really because for my own, you know, my own trajectory, you know, there was a lot of fear in my wanting to, you know, tell everybody, come on, you got to know about this. Even though I didn't see it as that.
Sure.
You know, and that's where some of those twists come in too. Well, if you're not paying attention, or that's not affecting you, you got your head in the sand, and then because there's more of that, you know, even when you're beginning to see these things are not the way to go, you know, there are other, see, I've really started to notice the levels of programming in us. Like it's like we have self-perpetuated programming for so long that even in those of us that are, myself included, aware of it and looking out for it, and, you know, stopping the pure just habit, the knee-jerk, the immediate thing, even when you're looking at that and trying to stop it, there's still that, you know, on some levels, or you can even be around others that they're corralling, programming starts kicking in. It's like, oh, wait a minute, no, it's not like that, or, you know, whatever. Like I said, that little twist in there. Yeah. I mean, it's very, once you start seeing that stuff, it's like everywhere within my field.
And I would say the only thing, that's not the way to phrase it. One thing you'll notice is that as beings are comfortable with their open heart, and it's expanding and expanding and expanding in their vibration, and they're not selling anything, the only thing that they will be unmistakable about them is that there is a boundary. Neither will they let things that are trying to infiltrate or to dive the energy down into their field.
Right.
You know, they'll do it from an expansive spot, very kind and very loving and, you know, very understanding. But it's, love-coated steel. It's not acceptable. I noticed that for myself at work. It's a big operation, and, you know, there's different personalities, there's different ways, and, you know, from the owners all the way through the whole thing. And I never noticed that, except for at the very beginning in my interactions, because I'm not afraid of, you know, oh, I got to do this or that because I'll lose my job or so that. I'm here because I'm supposed to be here, regardless of what the company is, right? Because this is where sources ask me to be, doing what I'm doing. And when I leave, I'll leave. So I don't have that same interaction. The reason I'm saying that is that so those things are felt. I don't need to come down with a hammer and this, that, and the other thing. It's simply in the energy field that I carry.
And I know that that's okay. So not that long ago, I wouldn't have really comprehended what you just said. Okay. But I feel that, and I know that within me to be a real thing. I mean, not that, you know, I'm just saying before I didn't comprehend it. So it's not that it wasn't a real thing. It just.
You didn't have a direct experience of knowing it.
That's correct. Yeah. And now I do. Yeah. Now I do.
And does that, now that you do, does that change how you could say you be in the world? You could say how you exude that knowingness in the world?
Yes. Yes. I've had a couple of examples for myself. You know, one of them was the, you know, visiting, like I said once before, where conversations would come up, and I, you know, in my past, you know, interactions, I would have, I mean, there was a time I actually, yeah, you know, like I said, it has been said of me that I have really big energy, and I didn't see the eyes glaze over. You know, number one, and that was, like I said, that was prior to my really comprehending all of that. It's, you know, I'm telling you, for a while I took on the red pilling thing like it was my job, and it was a really high paying job, and everybody had to be on board with this. You know, that's the way I went about it. But I see now that it's not my job, and it doesn't really matter. None of that actually really worked anyway. I mean, you know, maybe a seed or two planted here and there, but you know, so
there's more by that subtle taste. Like that's why I use the analogy of, you know, of sampling something. Because well, first of all, the ego mind doesn't feel the need to, I got to put up the shields. I feel some stuff, you know, isn't there. It's just, oh, what was that? You know, like you see this really cool flash of a bird flying by, and you find yourself, even if you're not a birder, you don't even really pay attention, you're going, I wonder what that was. So it's that same kind of thing, because you don't have to put your safe shields up. You don't have to put your, you know, as you had said, Lisa, you know, those hiding, protecting things up, because it's, you know, maybe at once a kind of a curiosity or a, wow, you know, if you like coffee, you smell this wonderful blend of coffee aroma on the wind. So it's flirtatious in a really beautiful, pure, true way of kind of enticing to want to know a little bit more. Right. And it's quantum and multidimensional in its sense, because so that part that I just talked about is on the linear level, the part that may be guarded by the ego mind level. But on the soul level, which is right there, is going, yeah, come on, you know, because it can come around those pre-programmed defenses, not only of the individual and the lower ego mind, but of those programs that we've often talked about that run along top to protect that. Right. Because it's not seen as, oh, here, wait a minute, here comes a threat. You know, they're tinfoil hat and the whole 9 yards.
The alarms.
Right. You know, it can come in under that because, well, first of all, there is genuinely there's no overt pushing with it. It simply is an exuding of open-hearted purity.
And you know what? Very rarely, sometimes, do people interact with such energetics.
Yes.
And they may not understand what's different about me, but they know that the interaction was different.
Yes.
And it's disarming in that way that you were speaking of.
Yeah.
And there's something, I was in a fender bender accident once, and it was on 95, and I was traveling from Washington, D.C. down to Richmond to spend time with a friend. And it was wall-to-wall traffic, and 95 will do that, and you never know when. You know, sometimes it takes an hour and a half to get to Richmond. And sometimes it takes 3 days, and, you know, and you just never know what you're going to get. And I was so in the flow. I was so in my heart, and I was listening to a program that was, you know, really expansive. And this young man rear-ended me. And I gave him a hug because he was shaking and quite disturbed by the whole turn of events. And he was young, and he was in his dad's vehicle. And I could sense the trouble from home coming. I could just feel him. I just tuned into him, and I said, and he was like, "Do we have to call the police?" And he was terrified of that. And I already was so far behind my own schedule, and I didn't want to wait for that either. And I just said, we're both human beings, and I think we can deal with this together between the two of us. What do you say? And he just got this great relief, you know, and that's when I hugged him, and we exchanged information, and I said, let's keep in touch, and, you know, I'll get back to you, and we'll deal with this, you know, between the two of us. And just this relief washed over him, and, you know, he was behind me for another hour as we weren't going anywhere fast. But he kept a very safe distance from that moment forward. And I felt like we were connected, and I felt like we were doing a soul dance the whole rest of the trip. I don't really know what all happened there, but something very magical. I felt like something in his life got transmuted, and that I was just the opportunity to be there. And I've had more of those experiences where I just show up from my heart, and something totally different than what could have happened happened. Right. So I really trust that place. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I can hear a couple of, when you were telling that story, it was like, well, that was foolish, and, you know, this and that. Well, again, that's all just, you know, the particulars about the story that you were telling. That's all from the, one could categorize it back to what you said earlier, Lisa, about, you know, you couldn't let your wings out. You had to protect yourself. Right. Okay, but that's that same thread. It's all from the closed heart. It's all from the, you know, pre-programmed and rewarded way in the false construct to be.
Yeah.
And the simplest way to describe that, it's an anathema to the truth of who we are. It's just a complete and utter falsity. You know, and once we can really play in that, and as Sheila, you were describing, you know, direct experience of knowing that, that's how we get there. Until then, we keep playing small. Until then, we keep hiding. And until then, we keep our being in the asteroid field belt going, you know, and we don't get what we keep saying we want.
Yes.
So do we want to say what we want and whine about what we want, or do we want to actually create and materialize what we know is our creation and our materialization. You know, again, it goes back to that identity, right? Because I think a lot of times people develop an identity to giving lip service to X, Y, and Z, you know, instead of the actual materializing the X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Because then you got more options. You can complain about it. You can want somebody else's fault, this, that, and the other thing. And look at what you're seeing playing out right now, that, you know, of victim or this or that or the other thing, you know, kind of lines of that are being given to constituencies of energetic neighborhood frequency collectives.
Yeah.
Come to find out that those are just tools to run on their own, you know, taking of power, vampiristic power things of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll have more of number 2, please. The second one. Yeah.
I wanted to share, if I can share the screen, I want to share one thing that I think is fun. You were talking, maybe when you were talking, Sheila, about the direct experience knowing and that you can feel what is different as you come into contact with things, and to really celebrate that. I had an interesting experience. I sent a friend some pictures, and so she wrote an email back with a comment she made on one of the pictures that I sent, and I think it's because it's all about, although she may not have, well, actually she did in the comment, but it's about energy and how we can pick up on things. So again, when we were talking about you guys going to the park and really flying and playing the next couple of days and just exuding that energy frequency, that expansiveness, rather than trying to sell something. So can I share my screen?
Please go right ahead.
If I did this right. Okay. Okay, I may have actually messed that up, but let's see. What I want is this. Can I just put it in a photo thing? Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. So there's that. Whoops.
A little slice of heaven.
That's your fairy garden there in the front too, isn't it?
Yeah. So, whoops. And so this is what she wrote. Thanks for the fantastic pictures. The last one of your sweet home with Keegan and your beautiful flowers at night brought tears to my eyes. The energetic hit I got is, here is the world we are working to create right here in front of me. This picture of BC's home. Wow, powerful. And the reason that I think is of course, if I can learn how to do this, get out of here, is that this person lives in the middle of the country, so many thousands of miles in the other direction, has never actually physically been here. In fact, I've known this person in a very deep, expansive, intimate way since 2006. Never physically met her, yet have talked every week for years and years and years and years, done gratitude calls in the whole 9 yards. And so it's a way of connecting an energy, and she can read the energy off of what this, little place that I've created is. It's I mean, so from a materialistic, linear perspective, it's a tiny little house, 390 square feet, yet it's, one of the biggest houses on the block, so to say, because of the energy and all the creatures.
And that love emanates from here.
So it's not selling anything, right?
No,
it simply is just being in that. And that's kind of maybe a visual for the stop hiding place.
Yeah.
You know, wherever we go, however we do that, whether it's actually going out physically next to somebody like you guys are going to do this week at the park, whether it's even as you come into contact with this video, or you know, you're on a tweet feed or whatever it is, start first within your own sphere. When you come into connection with something, so in this, I'm just going to use tweet for an example. So the tweet that shows up, how are you showing up? What is the energetic frequency? What is the level of consciousness within yourself and that energetic envelope that you hold? And notice that. And where are you hiding? And where are you? And when I'm talking about hiding, I'm talking about hiding the truth of who you are. So I'm talking about hiding your open heart. I'm talking about hiding the immense, spectacular, sublime being that you are. I'm not talking about, you know, hiding your angst, your anger, or, you know, what you're selling or any of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the true part of what you're hiding. So you start there, just what's coming up for you. And if you're, you know, flying off the handle and there's spittle coming out of you, okay, well, that's a good indication of where you are in the conscious vibration that you're putting out. See previous video about, you know, your projector and the reality that you're projecting out there. And just that, because when you come into a place where, again, using Twitter as an example, that you can notice different things, whatever that conversation is, and notice it, but not either buy in, be pulled into some kind of confrontational or triggered in any way that is other than just more of an open-hearted expansiveness, then you're hiding that part of you that's true.
Right.
Because there is no triggering in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like I don't know, for me now, I whenever I sense and feel any kind of triggering in me, I know that is so much for something for me to look at. Doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I know that there are those out there that will say, because I can hear them, well, what do you mean it doesn't matter? Doesn't pedophilia make you mad? Well, you know, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say that it makes me happy, but I'm not triggered by it any longer.
Right. And that's an integration thing. That's a broader perspective thing. That's see previous video, you know, the multi-locational, well, actually it's first is dual locational consciousness, then multi-locational consciousness. You know, does that in any way diminish from the linear perspective, you know, pedophilia and all those things? No, it does not.
No, it's exactly correct. And that's why I want to be very clear about that. I used that on purpose.
Because it's a trigger.
Yes, because it is a trigger.
Yeah.
And I am very well aware that it is a trigger. Because it was certainly a trigger for me as well. I mean, you know, and it's a big one. And it's a big one that, you know, is going to be, you know, coming out more and more, I feel.
Well, yeah, and I'll just programming note here. It's really important to deal with those because those are just teeny, weeny. I've been saying this since we've been hanging out talking since, you know what, last October. That those are just tiny few shavings on the tip of the iceberg of what's going to come out. And if you're triggered by that, holy smokes. You know, there's a lot of other stuff that makes that look like just tiny. And the same thing, it's all about integrating it. It's not it's not like saying, well, be okay with that fact. No, I understand that. But that's born of separation and duality. That's born of the false construct. That's born of going so far out in the trajectory that's the anathema of who we are, that doing things that play in that same energetic frequency simply just begets more of that. Mm-hmm. And in all the times, that I've been aware of the very deep, deep levels that I was talking about a moment ago, of all that has gone through, part of my coming to expansion around it, integration around it, was to be fierce in doing my own work to integrate that, and also fierce that I will not allow anything to pull me out of love, because I won't allow anything to pull me back further in a direction that's an anathema to who I am. Simply won't do it anymore.
Well, yeah, that I did use that one on purpose because of that very thing. Also because of, when folks, myself included, begin discussing that kind of thing, just to try to work through it for yourself. Because it's out there, and it's a bit of a twist. I feel it's the same kind of twist as the whole, they're watching us thing, this is a horrible thing, and how can you, say it's not triggering you, and it's not, there's a whole lot of that, and I view that as a twist, in a manner of speaking, because it keeps it going, it keeps it here, it keeps you out of your heart, it keeps you out of it keeps a lot of folks in a state of anger, and knowing what we know about the energetics of that, it's just going to beget more of that, and and magnify and become more, it just
it's also a delicious, it's like chocolate mousse. It's a delicious snack for those people that you're upset with. So, so are you going to integrate an expansive heart so that we can all move beyond and create that which is new? Or we are going to sit here and have banquets and buffets of feeding, right? We're talking linear here. So feeding them what is an ambrosia type snack.
Right.
Exactly. I'm good. I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, I'm all done with that game. So that's why I used that on. There's lots of things like that, but I used that one specifically for that very purpose. So,
and the other thing I think, just maybe to highlight that more with, is it's good examples of beings that do not have the ability to come from an open heart. Mm-hmm. Well, that's something to kind of reflect on, isn't it? Yeah. So if the anger and the disgust and reviling and all that kind of stuff, that's where they come from, because they don't see it the way we do. They're simply not capable. They're not capable of doing it.
Not available to them.
And that's because of the heart simply cannot open. So then when I was, going through my process of wrestling, I thought, well, hang on, but I'm kind of doing the same kind of thing. And then Smarmy would go, well, no, you're not. I thought, no, but it's all energetic. It's all frequency. So if my heart is closed and I'm going on this whole pitchforks and the whole 9 yards, not only am I providing a yummy snack from my energetic, feed off, but I'm going down the same frequency neighborhood with a closed heart. Not going to do it.
Right.
So when you can back out of it that way and understand, and yes, you can look at this and that in it, but again, that's getting attached to something that's a distortion on what actually is there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the frequency of it.
Right. Well, and I think part of the reason I brought that up to you is that because of just what we're talking about right here and that twist that I was speaking of, because that's when, because I have actually read some things and seen some threads where, oh, no, that's just totally unforgivable. And that's a twist on the new age. They just want everybody to forgive everybody, and then the do-batters will just get off scot-free and no. And there's a lot of that out there. That's exactly why I brought this up.
Right.
Because that's something to look at within myself. I had to do it.
I'm not talking about the turn a blind eye forgiveness train. It has, first of all, sources is all over that.
Right. Not my job. That's another one of those things, is not my job. My job is to get.
But I can look at it square on and integrate. That is my job.
Right.
To hold myself, that is my job. Mm-hmm. To come to a place where to realize that the act of that is not of love and not something to be supported in any way, shape, or form, yet the space to step back into love and to have an expansive heart, which is everything. It's not just fluffy ducky bunnies, and kumbaya. That's a bunch of twist on horseshit anyways.
Right.
It's everything. It's creation. It's moving through. It's all the things that, and there's the irony, it's all the things that people who get head up, they're talking about family and purity and innocence and all that. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. We get there by integrating that. It's not condoning something. It's not sweeping it under the rug. It's simply a different frequency in which you move through that. And remember, I talked a little bit ago about having, the space and the compassion movement, but having that love-coated steel of the boundaries of what's not acceptable from an energy frequency, and that's the other part that comes into it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and as one who just, started really figuring out what, where in regards to boundaries, for myself, when I first started on, not first started, but, as I was progressing along this journey, and there were certain behaviors of mine that I became very aware of as I was looking at all of them. There were, and was absolutely gobsmacked at, oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I understand. There were boundaries. now I need to set up these boundaries. Now that I know what behavior I've been exhibiting, I need to, I need to integrate it. First of all, got to notice it first. Then I had to integrate it. And when I started setting up some of those boundaries, those love-coded steel boundaries, there are beings who were used to a different kind of behavior. And that love-coated steel felt more like barbed wire steel to those who were not used to that. But again, that's not my job either. I can't help that.
And that's where the complicit in comes in. So if we've been playing small and fully bought that hook, line, and sinker, and in that whole program, we're complicit in all of this. Because we all rode out in that trajectory, and we all completely forgot the truth of who we are, which is pure love, which is expansion. which is creation in the most delicious ways. I, for one, want to fully immerse myself in that again. And I'm happy to do whatever I can, that I agreed to do a mission and from an open heart to be supportive to all. But, holding the boundary of full transparency and, accountability and response-ableness to what has gone on from all. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But the pitchforks, and the lynch mobs, no.
Yeah, no, that's me too.
Because that frequency is nowhere near in the neighborhood of the other neighborhood that I want, that I spoke of.
Right.
So, and again, that's a choice, and that's where we have to, but until we realize that we've been hiding, or that we've been playing small, or that we really are, these incredibly magnificent beings with such deliciousness and such beauty, such compassion, and such love, we can't see that. So we're actually compounding our own smallness by that. And that's one of those things that's a koan. That's one of those things that's, an oxymoron that has cognitive dissonance, because it's like, no, they're bad.
Right.
And we don't see the balance of the entire picture of that, which locks us more into that again. Mm-hmm. This is where it ends. This is where we shift it. This is where we change it. This is where we embody that love and move beyond that. It's the only way we can do it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's time right now. This is it.
It's here.
It is.
No more waiting.
No more waiting.
Yeah, no more waiting. No more waiting.
No.
Wow.
Just look around. It's happening actually quite brilliantly. In all of its, you could say, perceived ugliness and chaos and actually beautiful, rich detail and everything else. It's happening, and we're doing a magnificent job of it. We really
I love the way you described that just then. Because I had been there's this series that I had started watching at one point, because it seemed interesting to me, and I knew that it was something that Lisa was not interested in. So since she's not been here and I've pretty much been by myself, I binged watched this Netflix series, and it's quite multidimensional. I mean, so multidimensional. And there's lots of ugliness in it, but there's also lots of beauty also in that ugliness, as well as it is as the way it depicts things. If anyone's interested in it, I'll just say it was called Sense8, and it was it's there's a lot in it, and there's a lot of violence. I'm just going to put that right out there right now. And there's a lot of sexual scenes in it, so everyone doesn't say, oh my God, what's she looking at? But it's also very, for me, it was very expansive to be able to watch this and see the metaphor for what this actually is. Was, I'm telling you, I cried constantly through this thing. The beauty and for me, it was a very good representation of the all, and what we what we've been doing here and what we're continuing to do. And so it just, because even in the, that's one of the things I think a lot of folks, when you talk about art, it is sort of subjective. Yes, I get that. But there's lots of beauty even in some of the most ugly things. And I feel like when from the most expansive view,
Yes.
it's all just love. And it just, oh man, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
It's washing over me again.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, the complexity and I've been saying that for years too, Sheila, and sometimes people get it, and sometimes people look at me like I got, they should get the pitchfork after me. But it really is sublime. The complexity and the intricacy of all that each being has gone through, playing in various different roles, and really on that mission of going, collecting data and fishing out. That's one perspective to hold it. I mean, the creativity and the depths could be depths of depravity. Yes, absolutely. Could be depths of despair. Yes. Could be depths of heroism. Could be all sorts of things. But that's it. That's all. That's the whole encompassing thing. It's all of that.
Yep.
And the totality of those energies create worlds, create everything. And we're not small, and we're not once and done, and we're not at the, at the behest, the mercy, the finger of truly of any other being. We actually co-create all of this together because it brings expansion. And that's, I think, maybe one of the hardest things is that until we can have a direct experience of knowing of that, we can't see it. People, you'll see saying in lots of different ways, wow, when they realize the truth of deep state, or wow, when they realize, these people are sick, or, as a cue phrase and all that kind of stuff. That's not the headline.
No.
That's not the jaw-stopping gobsmack thing. Even if you went to the nth degree out to the various, wow, kind of make your jaw drop stuff on that level that they, quote unquote, have done, that's not the headline. That's not the Great Awakening. That's not the thing. The thing is, you're not small. The thing is, you are love. The thing is, you are creator beings and you are magnificent. That's the headline, and that scares the bejesus out of people who've been playing small for eons. That's it right there. Because it's that feeling of love, that feeling of compassion, that feeling of radiant joy and flow and melody and all-encompassing color and energy is so huge. The enormity is
edge of forever, maybe.
Yes, the enormity is so powerful. And when you have been in the groove of playing small, of this or that, us and them, all that kind of stuff, it's terrifying in its brilliance. It's terrifying in its absolute warm embrace, unforgivingness of how equal, how open, how all-encompassing it is. That's hard if you have not remembered to experience that. That's hard to feel again because it's sublimely beautiful. But it takes feeling to embrace that and not hide it.
Yeah, being open to feeling those things first is really the first step. I found for myself. Open to feeling them and being open to also what I said about that series, the Sense 8. You know, when I said at first that there was violence and there's sex and, you know, oh my gosh, what's she having us, you know, what's she looking at kind of thing. A lot of that I found for myself. It's judgment. It was, when I thought about those sorts of things, it's also partly programming from the way I personally was raised, the way, you know, just all of that. And so it's all up for noticing and looking and really feeling into on all levels. And for me, that was the first and most important step. Because you can't feel like you're standing on the edge of forever when you're playing small.
Nope.
That's right. That's for sure.
Playing small is done. Because you either remember you're big or you'll get kicked up a notch to help you remember you're big.
Tube of toothpaste style.
Yeah, right. I love rocket. Pow.
Wow, this was another good one, y'all.
Yeah.
I love conversating.
Yeah.
So do either one of you have anything else you'd like to add to this one?
Open your heart and be sublime.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will have everybody's usual stuff in usual places. And until next time.
Much love.